I didn't lose 25,000 by accident. Instead, I convinced myself that it was a good idea. And that's what made it dangerous, because at the time, everything about the decision felt right. This happened at the end of 2023. At that point, I had already been running my business for full 2 years. Revenue was growing every month. For over a year, it stayed above 100,000 per month. I had 5 people working in the warehouse, and I was renting around 250 square meters. But we had a problem. We were running out of space. There were products everywhere, shelves were full, boxes stacked, it was hard to navigate. And for months, I was looking for a bigger place nearby. But everything I found had some problems. It was either way too big, or it was too far away. But moving farther away would mean losing my team. So I kept looking. At the same time, sales were growing. Profit was strong, and I wanted to grow faster. It was right before the main holiday season, November and December. At the same time, I found a new supplier with products that looked very promising. So I just transferred to him 26,000 and the full truck of products arrived. This wasn't unusual, I was making purchases like this almost every week, but this time the difference was that I didn't have any space. And those were new products, they hadn't even proven anything yet. At that moment, my warehouse was already full. In my head, I had a plan. Because around 80% of orders were handled by third-party logistics. So I told myself that we'll just label everything and send it out. But unfortunately, that never happened. Orders suddenly doubled, one employee got sick, and we just didn't have any time. The same month, we hit a record, around 250,000 in revenue. And at the same time, 12, maybe 14 pallets were just sitting there. In a kitchen, in my office, they were stored everywhere that had at least some space. It got so bad that we could barely walk inside. There were just narrow paths between boxes. Everything slowed down, picking, packing, everything. And that's when I made a decision. I found a new warehouse. It wasn't perfect, it was in worse condition than my current place, but it had everything I needed. And it was nearby, and I could move there immediately. There was just one problem. It was huge, more than 900 square meters, moving from my 250 office. But I didn't think about that. Instead, I convinced myself that I will grow into it. With the way things were going, this will fill up fast. And honestly, I didn't want to keep moving every 8 months. Around that time, I also started going to management courses. And I met people there who were making millions. I started spending time with them, and every one of them was growing. Bigger offices, new production spaces, and I looked at that and thought that I need to grow too. I wanted to grow too, liked the process, everything. One of them was really into astrology. He told me that even the year 2024 is my year, that it only happens once every 12 years. I actually started believing that, like everything was aligning. Business is growing, people around me are scaling, even the stars are telling me that it's my time. Have you ever had the moment where you sell yourself an idea? Because that's exactly what I did. Before that, I used to calculate everything, avoid unnecessary expenses, but this time I did not. The store, the website, new products, courses, training, I spent time on things that felt more urgent. So I simplified everything in my head. I'm growing, rent is X, monthly profit is higher, so I should be fine. I didn't calculate worst case, I didn't even ask what happens if sales drop. I didn't even calculate how much utilities will cost me until I already moved there. Because in my head, growth was guaranteed. I had many projects going on. We moved in January. The new place was dirty, there was dust everywhere, trash, even breathing was hard. Cleaning alone cost me over 2,000 euros. Then moving, it took one full day, but adjusting took about a week more. I bought more inventory, more shelves, more products. I even took financing, because before I could sell everything I bought fast. It worked. The problem was later, when I had the space and I felt like I needed to fill it. That's when I started buying things that didn't really make sense, like holding much more inventory or buying products that I just thought would sell or just were available or at a good price. And this time it didn't work. Sales dropped, products stopped moving. Even discounts or ads didn't help. Now all my money, and also borrowed money, was stuck in inventory. And I kept spending more, trying to fix it. By April, revenue had dropped 4 times. That's when it hit me that this wasn't a seasonal drop anymore. The first thing I closed was the physical store. I already have a video about that if you haven't seen that. I thought closing would fix cash flow issue, but it didn't. Revenue kept dropping, and I realized that I couldn't afford the warehouse anymore. Just the space alone was costing almost 6,000 per month. So I gave notice, and by summer I was back in a much smaller space. But things kept getting worse. And the next biggest cost were people. At that point, I just didn't see any other option. And I honestly thought that reducing this cost will be enough. I had to let them go. And for the first time in 3 years, growth turned into decline. I don't like thinking about what if, but honestly, if I had just waited, I might have seen the signs earlier. Maybe if I hadn't moved, wouldn't have taken loans, and maybe I wouldn't have had to fix all of this later. But I will never know. That one decision cost me around 25,000. Indirect costs 1,000 for furniture, 2,000 more for cleaning, almost 4,000 for moving, and 19,000 was rent and other related to rent costs. Indirectly, it cost much more. At that moment, everything felt logical. That's the dangerous part, I believe. Not bad decisions, but decisions that feel right. Have you ever convinced yourself that something was a good idea and only later realized that it wasn't? Write it in the comments, it will be interesting to read. And if you want more stories from my journey, you can subscribe. See you in the next one.